So last month we talked about a bit of a culty classic with Death to Smoochie, so we're doing yet another one of those kind of movies. This time we're doing the 90s MTV film, Joe's Apartment.
When we at MTV decided to make our first movie, we knew the kind of hero America was yearning for. Someone young, fearless, and resourceful. A survivor. We came up with Ralph.
Give me a kiss, babe. When Joe came to town, he got the typical welcome.
Hands up, Pinhead!
No job.
How am I supposed to get a job looking like this?
No girlfriend.
Lily.
So we greeted him with open arms.
My first place!
All 6 of them.
Based on a popular short film, this comedy focuses on Joe, played by Jerry O'Connell, a young man who has just moved from Iowa to downtown New York City. After settling into his grimy apartment, Joe discovers that his home is legion to a bunch of talking and singing cockroaches. Although having so many bugs for roommates has its drawbacks, Joe finds the roaches to be friendly and good-natured, and they aid him in wooing the lovely Lily, played by Megan Ward, as well as contending to his mean landlord, played by Don Ho. Now, much like Death to Smoochie, I feel like this is one of those movies that when it came out, it wasn't really liked. Critics ripped it apart. It probably failed at the box office, or at the very least, it probably broke even. But it didn't make much of a splash. From the little research that I did before watching this thing, this was MTV's first movie they ever did. This was them trying to break out and show that they could do films. And it certainly feels like old MTV, especially with all the musical numbers. But if you've seen any piece of marketing from this movie, it also feels very 90s MTV. I mean, the tagline for the film was sex, bugs, and rock and roll. And honestly, if the movie was more like an early Peter Jackson film, like something like Bad Taste or Meet the Feebles, where it was just this balls-to-the-wall, insano, rated-R movie, it probably would have lived up more to that tagline, but as it stands, it feels more like a kid's movie that was bumped up to a PG-13. And it lives up to the PG-13 rating. I mean, there's enough in there for it to be like, yeah, it's not a kid's movie, but I don't know. You think that with a tagline like sex, bugs, and rock and roll, you think they could have been a little bit more hardcore about it. Apparently this was based on a short film. I'm assuming it probably would have been for Liquid Television, which was this anthology program where people could submit a bunch of different animated shorts and skits for MTV. I think that's actually where Beavis and Butthead got its start. As for the plot, you have this young guy named Joe, played by Jerry O'Connell. He gets off the bus, he's moving from Iowa to New York, and he's all wide-eyed and full of life and ready to move to the Big Apple. And right away he's given the old New York welcome as he's mugged and has no job, no girlfriend, and not a single place to stay.
Dear Mom, I made it to New York safe and sound.
Hands up, Pinhead!
Dear Mom,
Hands up, Pinhead!
please send money.
Along the way, Joe meets a bunch of colorful characters. He meets this one guy who's an artist. He does all this like weird performance, Andy Kaufman style art.
Oh my God, mister! Are you alright? Two days, 7 hours, 23 minutes, and 4 seconds. That's how long I've been lying here. Are you okay? Of course not. I'm an artist.
And they also establish later that he's in a band and he wants Joe to be his drummer, but that's much, much later on. The plot really gets going when Joe moves into this apartment building that basically has nobody there. It has this one old lady who ends up dying, and he poses as her son so that he can move into the apartment building. And this building also has landlords who are these fucking mobsters that work for this one guy, who in turn is working along with this corrupt politician. And said corrupt politician has a daughter who is named Lily, and she is really into gardening. And Lily wants to take the area around the apartment building and turn it into a garden so that way it can sort of bring life back to this part of New York, which they say is the bad part. And her dad wants to turn it into a prison.
The U.S. government would have acquired the last bit of property we need for the brand new Manhattan maximum security federal penitentiary.
But little does Joe know that moving into this apartment comes with having roommates of sorts. In this case, they're animated cockroaches led by a roach named Ralph and his sidekick Rodney. And these cockroaches, there's like thousands upon thousands of them in the apartment building. And at first, Joe doesn't really notice it. He just thinks it's a good place to start, and he lives like a total slob. He doesn't clean up after himself. He just lets a bunch of empty food boxes and fast food bags just lie around. He lets his clothes all over the place. And right away, the roaches take a liking to him. So when these mobster landlords come to try and shake him down because they start to realize that he isn't really the son of the lady who died there, the roaches help him out and they scare off these guys. And they don't really come back until like the third act of the movie.
Lay off our buddy Joe.
Okay, just let us go.
We know where you live. We live where you live.
Just to get this out of the way, much like Death to Smoochie, there are tons of subplots that are introduced, go nowhere, or you don't see them until the third act of the movie. There's just a bunch of that in this film. In fact, it was reminding me of Death to Smoochie so much, even down to the fact it takes place in New York, it was actually kind of scaring me. The movie is marketed as, oh yeah, Jerry O'Connell, this young guy who slowly starts to get more and more pissed off after living in this part of the city for so long. He comes to the Big Apple all happy and cheery and full of life, and then slowly as the movie goes on, he gets more and more pissed because he gets acquainted with New York life. While there is plenty of animated cockroach antics all throughout this thing, it kind of feels like the movie doesn't really have any sense of overlap. It doesn't really feel like any of these things really play into each other at all. It feels more like a series of subplots that just kind of stop and start when it's convenient. And whenever these subplots do overlap, it's very, very minor. Like right away, there's a subplot where Joe wants to get a job so that way he can continue to have a roof over his head. Because this is the cheapest apartment in this part of New York. He's looking for an apartment that's $100 a month for rent. And everyone laughs at him, but this is the one place he has to settle with. And he just has to put up with the antics of animated cockroaches that spit in wisecracks. And it feels like the whole thing of Joe trying to get a job could have been the whole movie itself, but it's basically whittled down into like a 2 to 3 minute montage. And the roaches play into it because every job he gets ends up getting ruined because of the roaches.
Retardos!
Come on in, the cheese is mine.
You're fired! Here are your enlargements, sir. You're fired!
And then it's just this rapid pace, music video-like style editing where you just see people in different job offices going, "You're fired, you're fired, you're fired.
You're fired!
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 And then that's it. That's really the end of that. The only other time Joe tries to get a job and the roaches don't impact him in any way, he ends up working for a company that works on urinal cakes.
Retrieve all used product from the restrooms at 58 East 161st Street, the Bronx. Deliver them to the research department for testing.
And there's this joke where I guess the boss of this place recognizes Joe's mother and he starts making weird, creepy sexual advances.
Does your mom still wear her hair in that sexy way? Does mischief still sparkle in her eye? That minx. Mommy still got that saucy swing to her hips? Mommy ever give you a sponge bath?
If anything, it's more uncomfortable than funny. And this part happens in the middle of the movie, and then 1 or 2 scenes later, Joe ends up figuring out that the company is getting bought out by some feminine hygiene products company. So he's now out of a job because, the company that bought this company is cleaning house. So he's back to not having a job again.
10 minutes ago, this company became a wholly owned subsidiary of Featherstone Feminine Products.
They're gonna shut down the whole urinal cake division.
Don't forget to take this. Come on, this way, gentlemen. Let's get going.
Going back to the main love interest, Lily, she doesn't really do a whole lot in the film. He first sees her just while on the bus, and he sees that she's gardening, and he's just smitten with her, despite not actually having a conversation with her or even knowing her name at that point. But he tries to get closer to her. He ends up finding out that she works for some kind of dispatch for 911.
Alligators in the subway. Interesting, ma'am. Please hold. No, sir, don't try to saw it off yourself. Please hold.
And as the movie goes on, she gradually hates her job. She gradually grows to hate the city because just the way the people are in this part of town, it's that New York big city mindset of just hating the hustle and bustle and the everyone's out for themselves and everyone's just fucking ready to pull guns and knives on each other.
She's sick of her job. And she is sick of New York City. And she is sick of having her stupid, idiotic daydreams dashed to pieces. She's sick of it. And what makes her sickest is the unspeakably rotten things some people do to other people just when she was beginning to like them.
Lily, is that you?
And eventually her dad breaks the news to her that he's going to be building a prison where she wants to put a guard in there, and she feels like her dreams have dashed. But
This place does deserve to be a prison. The Ace of Village sucks!
But you know by the end of the movie, everything's going to work out, everything's going to be fine. There are decent scenes of her having chemistry with Jerry O'Connell. I'll give him that. There are scenes where they have a cute rapport back and forth. She goes to a concert because his artist friend asks him to become their new drummer because the drummer previous to him died.
Doing a musical performance at Gusto House. You can sit in for my regular drummer. He's dead.
Well, sure. What? He's dead.
So Jerry O'Connell goes to be the drummer, and he sucks at the drums, and the friend ends up spinning it into, oh, it's performance art.
I'm sorry. There won't be any rock and roll tonight. This is all that's left.
He's still the butt of the joke, and so eventually Lily decides to take Joe up on his offer to go back to his apartment. And here's where it feels like the movie finally starts to flow like a real movie. It feels like the subplots are finally overlapping like the plot of an actual film, because Joe takes Lily back to his apartment and he's trying to keep everything under wraps. He keeps telling the roaches to not do any funny business. But of course, they end up ruining things because a bunch of cockroaches end up falling out of the ceiling onto her, and she screams and runs out, and Joe is royally pissed. Joe decides he's going to try and take vengeance on the roaches, where he comes back dressed up as Rambo and sets off a bug bomb.
This is all I gotta say to you, Ralph.
But the roaches end up fighting back, and then they tie him down, and they give this grandiose speech about how roaches will outlive humans.
We were here first. We'll be here last, too. We got a long-time lease on this planet.
The roaches try to kill Joe, because they also throw in something about how he now knows their secret.
We took a big risk talking to you. And since you faked the funk on our friendship, you can't walk off knowing what you know.
It feels like this whole relationship between Joe and the roaches should have been a little bit more fleshed out. It feels like having a relationship with a roommate that you barely know. They're just like, oh yeah, we have our part of the apartment, you have yours, we don't bug you, you don't bug us.
Let's be friends. We just saved your life, remember? Besides, Joe, if those two friends of yours come back, we might come in useful. So how's about a live and let live philosophy here, Joe?
I gotta get out of here.
Except the big joke of it is, haha, they're cockroaches and they speak in jive and wisecracks and do musical numbers. Which I found this out. The reason there are so many musical numbers throughout the movie with the cockroaches that just kind of come and go in increments is because back then, I guess MTV had this rule about you had to make sure that music was a big part of it if they were going to produce it. Apparently, this is why Beavis and Butthead had the portions where it was just them watching music videos and making commentary. So, yeah, I guess it kind of worked the same way for movies. It's like, if MTV was going to produce it, you had to make sure that you had musical numbers or some kind of music in the movie. The plot just kind of stops just so they can do this whole thing of, oh, the roaches are singing and dancing. And it's like, yeah, it's well animated, but it feels like the movie just pauses everything. And that's basically how most of the movie plays out. It just keeps jumping back and forth. Joe can't get a job. Joe's trying to impress this girl. Joe's talking with his best friend. Joe's hanging out in his apartment talking to the roaches. Occasionally, Joe will do something that benefits the roaches. Like, there's a cat that breaks into the apartment, and he throws the cat out the window, and he saves Ralph, and they form kind of a closer friendship.
Some pretty cool cats from there. Sinatra, Bruce. Say, nice set of whiskers, sir. Get on, Joe, get on! Joe, you saved my life. No human being has ever saved the life of a cockroach.
Even early on, when the roaches get rid of the landlord mobster guys, you think that Joe would be a little bit more appreciative, or maybe there would be a point where, like, okay, we really need to sit down and we need to start setting some ground rules, and like they start to get to know each other a little bit better. But the movie never really does that. It prioritizes subplots and musical numbers more than actual character development. Considering it's an MTV movie, I mean, again, that was all over the trailer, though. What else did you expect from MTV? It's like, all right, yeah, I mean, it definitely flows more like a music video than a movie, which we gotta bring that up too. Along with the musical numbers, the way this movie is edited, lots and lots of techniques you'd see in music videos. Which, hey, you know, trying to keep up with the MTV image, that's totally fine. I could definitely see a bunch of 90s kids probably being into the style of this movie. I could see a lot of people looking back at this movie and thinking that it's very kitschy and very 90s and, ooh, it's subversive. And I understand that. It's way more stylized than Death to Smoochie, which is saying something because Death to Smoochie was also very stylized. Every once in a while it dips into that Danny DeVito kind of style of filmmaking where you got the Dutch angles and you got the close-ups. But this movie, from beginning to end, it feels like watching an hour-and-a-half 90s music video, which for some people might sound like a great thing, and other people it might sound like a terrible thing. So, depending on who you are, take that information and run with it. So the roaches are about ready to kill Joe because, yeah, he now knows their secret that roaches can talk and are super intelligent. But then the landlord guys come back and they're ready to kill Joe, and they basically set the whole building on fire. But it seems that Joe isn't dead, he's just knocked out. So the roaches decide to help out, and in some, again, very impressive animation. It's very stop motion in a lot of cases, and I did like that. It was very 90s, like, experimental animation. I like that a lot. But the roaches end up getting a bunch of flowers and a bunch of foliage from a bunch of different flower shops all over the city, and they all band together to bring this area back to life as a garden. You see grass being rolled out, you see flowers blooming, and Joe finally comes to and realizes that the roaches actually did something good. They actually did make his life better. Because Lily comes back with her father, and her father is talking about how, oh yeah, we're going to put a prison here. But then when he sees the garden, he has a change of heart. This character that was in the movie for like 3 scenes, and they kept building up as, oh, he's the corrupt politician who's working with these mobsters or whatever. Yeah, he just has this heel turn like, oh, honey, this garden is lovely. I couldn't possibly build a garden here.
You were right. This park will do more for the Lower East Side than 1,000 prisons. My boy, you've done my old neighborhood a great service.
It was all her idea, Senator.
And as for Lily, she finally ends up with Joe because the cockroaches spell out Joe loves you before they flee into the sewers. So yeah, Joe and Lily get together. The dad is completely fine with having a garden in that part of town. As for the mobsters, they end up getting thrown down a sewer hole because the cockroaches mess with them one more time. With one of the weirdest effects in the movie.
Let me show you a hot new property.
So Joe is now living in a penthouse with Lily. They're finally together, and it seems that even the roaches are going to occasionally drop by their place because the roaches show up for one final song number. And it seems that even though they know they gotta give those two their privacy, it seems they're gonna pop up every once in a while.
Sorry about what happened in my apartment. My friends are sorry too.
Friends. I never thought I'd say this, but they're actually kind of sweet.
Honestly, I expected this movie to have a lot more to talk about, but much like Death to Smoochie, it's this weird in-between where, no, it's not a very good movie, but at the same time, I liked the premise. There's a bunch of interesting animation stuff all throughout. The song numbers, I mean, most of them I wasn't really fond of, but there are one or two songs where it's like, all right, that's pretty catchy. The original songs that are in the movie, like they're like pop songs, lots of obvious 90s tracks. There's a bunch of songs in there where it's like punk, pop punk, like I think there's a Green Day song in there at one point. What I'm trying to say is this is a very 90s movie, and I think, before this, the last super 90s movie I ever looked at was probably Biodome. I feel like if you grew up with this movie, you're probably very nostalgic for it. Rewatch it again, come to your own conclusion. Seeing it for the first time myself, I liked the premise. There was a bunch of silly 90s charm throughout this thing. Jerry O'Connell does a good job in the role. In fact, honestly, most of the actors in this I thought did pretty good. Sometimes the roaches would say something that was mildly funny throughout. Every once in a while they get a good line in there. I do find it funny that the one F-bomb this PG-13 movie got went to the roaches, and it was probably the biggest laugh I had in the whole movie.
God, you're disgusting.
Oh, like you humans are any kind of fucking prize.
If you're gonna watch it, just know what you're getting into. It's a very 90s movie, and you know, I didn't hate it. I didn't hate the movie. It's not great by any means, but it was charming enough for me to be like, all right, well, that killed an hour and a half. I don't know if I'm gonna rewatch it ever again, but you know, I finally got to see it this one time, and I wasn't mad. I didn't hate it. It was perfectly serviceable. It's the kind of movie that, in concept, I appreciate more than the execution. But I'm like, you know what? They made a movie. It's entertaining for the most part, but it's very flawed, especially in terms of how it's structured. Unless you're somebody that was a young person growing up in the 90s, in which case you probably liked seeing a lot of this fast-paced music video style editing in a movie like this. As for what we'll be talking about next time, we'll be looking at another Legacy sequel, because we seem to be on a roll with those. You know, we did Zoolander, we did Bad Santa 2. This one isn't from 2016, thank God. It's from 2018. The movie in question is Super Troopers 2, which, I've seen once. I think I saw it the year it came out, and then never thought about it ever since. So, because I have the DVD of it, I figured, hey, I could just watch it again and talk about it for a video. So, until then, I'm Adam Sykes of the Blockbuster Show, and we will see you guys in the next video.
Give me a kiss, asshole.